I'm your host, Greg Villafana, and we've partnered up with our friends at MPP to deliver short business tips each month. Having expertise in the swimming pool industry and business world, we believe these messages will truly help your business. So without further ado, let's jump into this month's business tip.
Welcome to your go-to podcast for the pool and spa industry. My name is Tyler Rasmussen.
And my name is Greg Villafana. And this is the Pool Chasers Podcast.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Chad. Appreciate you taking the time to be with us here today. How you doing?
You bet, man. I'm doing great. Great. Good to see you again.
Very good. You climbed any crazy hills or mountains lately?
Actually, I'm on a little bit of hiatus from hiking. I had stem cells put in my knee a couple of weeks ago, and the doctor's like, no hiking for 4 weeks, which is kind of a big issue for me because I hike at least twice a week. So I'm just getting fat over here is what I'm doing, Greg.
Right. Yeah, same over here. Can't remember the name of it, but I watched a killer climbing documentary where this guy, I don't know if it's from Nepal, but climbed like, what was it, like 20 of the highest mountain peaks in like 30 days or 60 or a year, something like that.
I just heard about that documentary. Somebody else was telling me about it. It's pretty awesome, right?
Man, you got to be a crazy, SOB to do something like that. So today we're talking about selling a business versus selling a route. And we know that you know a ton about this. So can you give us a brief overview of, each of the major differences of those two?
Yeah, you bet. In the pool business, a lot of people, sell their routes, right? So and sometimes it can be a bit of a habit where they build it up and they sell, 30, 50 pools off at a time, creates a little extra revenue and whatnot. So typically routes are valued as a percentage of the service revenue, right? Or we call it times the service revenue, the monthly service revenue. And it depends on the market, but that's, 8 to 10, maybe 11 times the service revenue. And then the other valuation methodology used quite often is an entire business sale, right? And that would be a multiple of EBITDA, earnings before income, depreciation, and taxes. And generally, depends on the business. If the business is run correctly and it's making, a good profit to the bottom line, you should get more money selling your business as a multiple of EBITDA. And the reason is for a couple of reasons, right? But one of them is you're getting valuation based on maybe repairs, filter cleans, some people do tile cleans in their business, maybe even remodel. And that valuation is considered to the bottom line, right? So selling your business that way gives you consideration for that and really, will give you a higher value.
Right. And can you discuss the valuation methodology?
Yeah, so it depends a little bit on what your business is. It depends on the age of the business, maybe how many routes you have and things like that. But the EBITDA methodology is a multiple of that bottom line margin, right? So that would be overall profit. And the advantages to doing that is a couple of different ways. One is you probably get a little bit of a higher price. Like I said, if the margin is run correctly in your business. And a pool business should be probably putting 16, 18% to the bottom line on average. Maybe some parts of the country can be a bit higher than that. But that should be average if it's run correctly. There's also some depreciation capture of the fleet. So if you have a good fleet of vehicles, you're getting some depreciation capture at that point. And the reason that companies are willing to pay a bit more if they're, buying it off of that methodology is, for those reasons. You've got an existing fleet that they're going to take over. You've got employees in place. If somebody's just buying a route, let's say you're selling 100 pools, you might not have a technician that goes with that, right? So the company buying that route then has to cover those pools, which essentially makes the value less, right? But if you're buying an entire company, you're getting the technicians, you're getting the employees, you're getting the fleet, and the marketing methodology that's already in place for that company, whether that's branding, or whether that's, just things like presence on Yelp or, whatever that might be. And the other thing to consider for the company buying them is you're removing a competitor from the space. So if you just buy a route, for instance, and roll it up into your existing business, and the competitor still continues forward, then you're not removing a competitor, and it's just not worth as much. The value isn't as high because of that.
Right. Thank you.
Even on a route sale, maybe you have a situation where a company is getting out of the service business, but they want to keep maybe their remodel business, or they want to keep some other portion of their business, maybe a marketing agreement or things like that in place. So the difference between buying somebody in whole and taking over their LLC and their kind of aged LLC and things like that versus just taking a piece of it, essentially it ends up on that bottom line. Like what's it worth? What's the value worth?
Yeah, I never thought about it like that. How well have you seen that work out where somebody is just selling a division of what they do, like getting rid of the pools, but they still do remodels, or they're still doing pool build or, landscape? How well have you seen that relationship work out?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not ideal, right? Because, it's better to take it in whole. It's not ideal to separate it out because it creates some confusion in the marketplace. It's like, well, that name no longer does service and repair, but they still do remodel, right? Our business, we're always looking for good service and repair companies. We're not necessarily in the construction space, right? So we don't actually build pools. But if somebody has those divisions and it's clearly delineated, maybe even named slightly different, that can work. But if somebody is saying, hey, I just want out of the service business because it's a lot of hassle and, all the joys that go with cleaning pools, but I want to continue building pools, or I want to continue remodeling pools, it can work, but it can be a bit messier, unfortunately.
Definitely. And what all is considered when looking into the companies?
The things that make a big difference in price, I think, or in value is, how are customers being billed, right? Are you billing your customers in arrears? In today's world, almost no companies bill in arrears anymore, and if a company is billing after the fact for their service, it's really hard to realign them initially with normal billing practices. So I always tell guys that are like looking to maybe sell their business, it's like, make sure that your billing aligns with modern day billing practices, right? Bill in advance and have them on auto pay. Customers that are still mailing checks in or bringing checks by your office or sending a bank check, it's just not the way business is done today. So get that kind of organized in advance, makes a big difference. And the other thing is, make sure your pricing is current in the market. You'd be surprised how many people in a current market don't actually know what the market pricing is. Get your pricing up to today's standards, like what is the current market, and maybe even edge toward the front of that, edge toward the high end of that in advance of a sale, because it'll show the person buying your company, how much forethought has went into it and how much value you're adding to the bottom line of the business. Because pricing affects the future of a business, right? We all know that you can't stay at the same price forever. In today's inflationary environment, pricing is constantly, and even things like filter cleans, what are you charging for a filter clean? That should be up to today's standards. And, I myself was guilty of not keeping track of that really, because I thought, well, that's just what we were doing. But suddenly I realized the market was different than what we were actually charging. But that's a big thing. One other thing I want to point out is that we talked about fleet. For instance, if you're buying a route, you're not getting trucks, right, with that route most likely. But if you're buying a business in full and you're taking that over, that fleet is a value. It's a pretty good value to the buyer. And it's a depreciation opportunity for the seller, right? So it's like, hey, I sold this as part of the business, and it's a tax advantage to the seller. So a good, well-maintained, modern fleet, trucks that are well-maintained, that, the techs can drive out there. There's fewer and fewer companies that are requiring techs to have their own truck, right? In today's world, most good companies already have trucks, but having a good fleet, well-maintained, modern, fairly recent model, doesn't have to be brand new, but, trucks that are 5-6 years old or newer, definitely adds a lot of value to that business for sure.
Right. So what if you were buying a company that has a fleet of vehicles? I know that, you and Aquaman, you like a certain model make of a truck, and you have things worked out to where you actually get them from. So what if you're, getting another company and maybe it's just, 5 guys and 5 trucks, but they're all the same. I mean, and that has to go in the deal. Have you ever taken vehicles or consider it, even though they're not exactly the same as yours?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Because not everybody's going to run the same fleet we do, right? And we recently bought a company that had, vehicles that were a bit different than ours, but we definitely, can find ways to kind of fold them in. At this point, we have vehicles that, we have Nissans and Toyotas, and we even have some Ford Rangers. Those new Rangers are pretty sweet. So
They're bigger too, yeah.
Yeah, it's a comfy truck, right? It's a nice truck. So there's definitely, the fleet isn't exactly the same today as it maybe was 5 years ago. But the thing is the fleet, is it a truck that is going to hold value and be reliable on the road, right? Not a bunch of full size, F-150s that are going to take, break down more, right? Unless it's a repair vehicle. Like, the cleaning trucks have to be cost effective and, run well. Gas at going on $5 a gallon these days is, that's important consideration.
Most definitely.
One of these days we're going to have electric trucks to run around, but until that day.
I've been saying that forever. I mean, the vehicles, the trucks are the lifeblood of what we do. And if it's not that, I always thought, you might see side-by-sides in Arizona, zipping around with, poles on the sides of their, side-by-sides.
How cool would that be? That'd be a great branding for a pool company. Let's get a bunch of side-by-sides out there cleaning.
I thought it would be attractive too. Yeah. Who wouldn't want to clean pools? You get a side-by-side, for your route.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be pretty sweet.
So
but that brings up another point, like, organized employees, right? Like, how good are the employees organized on the routes? That's something to consider too, in advance of maybe wanting to sell your business. Having the routes very tight, right? Do a good job of that, because that's a consideration as you value a business. How efficient are the routes being run? Is somebody cleaning a pool in Surprise and then driving over to Mesa, right? It's got to be cost effective and the route's got to be tight.
Yeah, in terms of the technician, is there any way you found to actually like vet a team before taking them on, just to kind of, I might say that they're all they all have a certain skill set, but you might have different thought on that. You figured out a way to do that?
Yeah, I don't think there's any silver bullet on that, unfortunately. I mean, we do a lot of HR, due diligence, if you will. So kind of going through the list and, making sure people are legal and things like that. Our company, we only pay W-2. So, everybody is going to be a W-2 employee, and they're all going to have taxes taken out and things like that. So we have to make sure that that's all above board. But it is, it's one of those things. If a seller is loves their technicians and maybe they don't kind of fit in the new business, that's always a concern. So, but a lot of that's in discussion with the seller. It's like, hey, how are these guys? When you just go down through the list, like, tell me about this guy and tell me about that guy, right? So you can kind of like figure that out. But if somebody's looking to sell their business, it's important to have technicians that are, good quality employees, I guess.
Yeah, definitely in these areas too. I'm seeing a lot more like service companies, like service wide, not just in the pool industry, but they're doing a lot more in terms of background checks, credit checks. They want to know, like everything, because you're going inside their garage, in their house, in their backyard, and there's been too many incidences where, a crime has been done and they think it links back to, the company and, who's to blame,
Yep.
For hiring somebody with this, criminal background. And I know what it's like, to be kind of desperate sometimes and want and need to just hire somebody that kind of knows what they're doing. But sometimes you got to like slow your roll and do the right thing and hire the right people.
Yeah. We put certain things in place, that help protect the company and the employee, right? And those are important. But also, we've moved more and more to this thing of building bench players, right? Training guys up, hiring for attitude and professionalism and things like that, as opposed to, I've been cleaning pools for 10 years. I understand how to chase leaves and lower pH, right? So, we've looked a bit more into that. Hey, look, let's hire more for personality fit and, a good employee and build that bench from within. And I think that's something when we look at businesses to buy, we're kind of looking for what is their hiring methodology? What are they using for that? Are they using any hiring checklist or like you said, is it just, hey, this guy can swing a net, right? So exactly. I think today's world, it's hard to hire no matter what. You got to have good benefits and all those things and try and attract good people. It's the bottom line.
Right. Yeah. It's not cheap getting people these days. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So how can companies drive the value of their pool business higher?
Yeah. It's those things I was talking about earlier. I think, the big thing right now with this inflationary environment is make sure your weekly service price is priced at the market or maybe edged toward the top of it. And if you're still including chemicals, take a serious look at how you bill. Most people in the Phoenix Valley now are no longer chems included. They're charging for that in one way or another, whether it's by the bucket, selling a customer a bucket of chlorine by the tab, however that is. It's so hard to really know what chlorine price is going to be in 6 months, right? So things like that allow a valuation to be cleaner because there's less guesswork. It's like, this is what the service really is, and then the chemicals are billed that way. So that's probably the biggest thing. That, and along with methodology of billing, like get your customers on auto pay, get them billed at the first of the month, makes a big difference on how many customers are going to stick with them through the transition, right? So those are the two things I think that everybody can do. Not everybody can go out and buy a brand new fleet of vehicles or anything like that, and I don't think that's necessarily the most important thing. But I really think that pricing aspect and getting it right to the market really makes a big difference.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. If I was looking at, a team, I would value, if they're charging these customers correctly and, how well the team does, as like technicians and different things like that over a fleet, because a big company like yourself already has those relationships in place where, you can get somebody set up in a new truck and things like that. But, being aggressive with getting the right customers for the right price, that's not an overnight thing. That's going to take you time, and that's going to cause you to change things right here and now as you're going to bid the next pool, is making sure that it's clear that, the price can drive up, because of the, chemicals and things like that.
Even something as simple as a fuel surcharge, right? Everybody's charging fuel surcharges on everything that they're selling me these days. And, we've just kind of adopted that as, hey, we have to, the fleet, it consumes fuel. It's the bottom line. And, we have to protect that. And, we'll have a customer that doesn't like that idea, but for the most part, people understand. If you just say, hey, look, go look at the pump. What was gas, a year ago? What is it today? There's just, the reality is, as a service company owner, you've got to protect that. And you're doing right by your employees, by the people that work for you, by your good clients, by putting something like that in place so that you can protect the other items of your business.
Most definitely. I mean, just the cost of business alone, not that you really need to explain that much of it, but the service, how much you're charging for service each month, that's keeping the business alive. That's, air conditioning in the office. Those are your marketing dollars. That's, if you're actually paying your, employees as employees, W-2, and have health benefits. I mean, it's expensive. At the end of the day, you're not making as much as they might think you are. you're charging $100
Yeah.
per pool, you're definitely not getting $100 if you're running a legitimate business.
Yeah. Yeah. We always, I know at Aquaman, our big goal is to always be thinking about pricing as to how we can also support our employees. So some of the best health benefits in the industry, I think, and, things like good trucks and, work-life balance and things like that are really important to us. But you got to charge for that. You can't be on the bottom end of the market, because if you're going to be on the bottom of the market, you got to work your people to the bone, and that's just not who we are.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that customers know that. I just don't think that people in the pool business have done the best job, in explaining our value. But as you learn your business and your value, it gets easier to kind of make that sale probably.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think really in the last few years, I think the pool industry is coming up to that. I've seen some very good positive changes. Things like service calls. People never used to charge for service calls, but your heating and air company, your plumber, they always charge for service calls, right? Like, oh no, my air conditioner's down. Well, here's the service call fee, and then we'll go from there. Pool companies didn't used to do that, but in the last few years, the people I talk to anyway, 75% are charging service calls now. Makes total sense, Why not?
I'm probably the only person that almost can't wait for something to happen in the house, because I want to call like a different company to come out from a different industry, whether it be, HVAC or plumbing or whatever it may be, and just seeing, the process. And so far, the worst to me are painters. I've dealt with a few companies that I thought were on their A game because of their website and this and that, but processes are horrible. But, always learning from everybody.
That is that one thing that I refuse to do. Painting and moving. Yeah, you asked me to help you move, Greg. I'm going to say, hey, look, I'll buy the pizza for the guys that help you move. How about that?
Same here.
Just not who I am.
I'll find some guys for you. Yeah, but I'm not moving.
Right.
Love it.
100%.
Did you have anything that you wanted to add to this?
No, I think, this is something obviously I'm pretty passionate about, even before, the National Pool Partners stuff. I've bought and sold other businesses. The pool business, essentially, Aquaman was business number 11 for me in my life. So it's not new to me. And I really enjoy it. I like helping people with it. If there's ever somebody that, just needs a mentor in the space, I coach other people some with it, and I definitely enjoy it. I think it's fun. I lasted one semester in college. College wasn't for me, but this is something I think I've picked up on my life and learned from, and I enjoy it. I like to see people, get the value out of their business.
Yeah, and you have a knack for it. You really are good at it. And if anybody listening wants to reach out, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, you bet. I'm happy to help. So my email is just cnikkel, CNIKKEL @go-npp.com. That's probably the easy way. You can probably find me on Instagram or, Facebook and all that as well. And on Instagram, I'm just Chad Nikkel, @Chad Nikkel. Last name spelled Nikkel.
Perfect. Well, thank you again, Chad. Appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. And hopefully you recover and we see you on the top of the highest mountain here shortly.
You got it. Thanks, Greg. It was fun talking to you again.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to learn more, you could hit the link in the show notes below or visit poolchasers.com. If you'd like to learn more about MPP, visit go-mpp.com. See you out there, pool chasers.